Hello, welcome to another episode of What Rubbish, a holistic treatment for women in breast cancer. Today, we have a very exciting topic and a lady who has championed in this arena, and I love to welcome her. Her name is Candace Badgett, and she has mastered the Ayurveda and Transcendental Meditation. And today we are excited to bring that conversation in view to help educate women who can also take advantage of some of the areas within the Ayurveda that has helped women with breast cancer. So with that, Candace, can you share a little bit about yourself, your introduction, and how did you step into Ayurveda and Transcendental Meditation?
Thank you so much, Ajay, and it's very delightful to be here with you. Yes, I have an interesting journey, maybe not so unique, and that is just as a younger person looking for more depth of understanding of life and the purpose of life. And, when you're young and you're just setting out on what will be my career, what will I be doing in life, will I have a family, all these kinds of questions. Um, there are lots of options, especially for women today.
Yeah.
So it was a very interesting process whereby it was just a friend of mine introduced me to transcendental meditation. And in that simple experience, because it is such a simple practice that involves no effort, really utilizing the natural inclination of the mind to seek out its most fulfilling state, its own ground state, you could say. And so it was a very profound experience for me that led me to look into it a little bit more. And I took some follow-up courses, and one thing led to another. And much to, I could almost say, the dismay of my parents at that time, I decided to become a teacher of transcendental meditation, because back then, this was a long time ago, meditation wasn't a household word. It wasn't something that everyone did
Yeah.
here in the US. And so, and now today, of course, it's everybody talks about having some kind of meditation practice. And we have a lot of stress in the world today, so everyone's
Yeah.
looking for some kind of stress management. But the thing about transcendental meditation is that it's so much more profound than just stress management.
Hmm.
It's really a way of coming home to yourself. And I think this is what is so useful for women. And that is because as women, we are natural caregivers. Our,
That
our,
is that is
our,
true.
our
Yeah.
physiology is structured to be mothers.
Yeah.
We have that unique capacity. And so we're kind of hardwired as nurturers.
Right.
And therefore, we have a tendency to put a huge amount of importance on relationships, which means we tend to look outside of ourselves for our fulfillment and our happiness. And what happens is when we can develop a kind of internal self-sufficiency and internal fullness, actually, we end up having so much more to give. And on that ground of a very profound inner fullness, we end up being able to navigate the ups and downs of life so much more easily.
Yeah.
And because we're not inclined so much in that inward direction, when we find something like transcendental meditation, just 20 minutes twice a day, that gives us that anchoring in an inner fullness, something that transcends the everyday activities of life, something consistent and full, it's amazing how powerful we become.
So, Candace, you said two things that caught my attention. Number one, um, women have internally the attitude of serving. servitude. Number two, as a mother today, as a daughter today, as a working mom, as a working businesswoman, there's a lot of stress. And stress becomes a major killer for a lot of diseases. Actually,
Absolutely.
it causes a lot of diseases. So obviously, meditation is helpful because it reduces stress. So talk about with you're bringing the Raj Ayurveda and now learning and becoming a coach to TM. How is that going to help or will help women today in that highly stressful industry, I would say, or environment, I would say?
Environment.
And the rate
Absolutely.
of cancer is growing. One in eight women are getting breast cancer. How can we make an impact on that?
Well, I think you're really um, coming to the core issue, and that is because we're caregivers, just because we now step into a career, we step into the office, we could
Hmm.
say, it doesn't mean that we let go of all those responsibilities at home and
Yeah,
all those responsibilities with parents and children and partners and husbands and everything. We've taken on so much more than we realize. This whole concept of, can we have it all? And a lot of women in careers these days, they say, yes, we can have it all, but maybe not all at once. And so that is what's happening. There's this sense of pressure that we have to deal with it all at once.
hmm,
And so again, and this is where Ayurveda comes in as well. And we'll jump over to that in just a
yeah, yeah.
second here. But in terms of transcendental meditation, the level of rest that we get when we transcend. Now, what does transcend mean? It simply means going beyond the thinking process. Okay, this brings up lots of questions too. Now, wait a minute.
Yes.
If I'm not thinking, I'm asleep. You
Yeah,
know, how do we transcend the thinking process? And we can't do it by trying to get rid of thoughts, because the thought, to get rid of a thought, is a thought. And now you're going to make yourself a little bit crazy trying to get rid of your thoughts.
that is true. Yeah.
And
Uh,
so the key with TM is it utilizes the natural tendency of the mind to seek out its own most fulfilling state, because the mind's always looking for happiness.
that is
That's the
true.
goal of everything the mind seeks out. So the most fulfilling state is this inner fullness that is completely self-sufficient. It's not dependent on anything going on outside ourselves.
Hmm.
So you just need the correct angle. You just need to activate the mind's natural ability to find its own ground state or its own inner fulfillment. Now, this field is a field of absolute rest, absolute calm, and it's there underlying all our active feelings and thoughts at all times.
And it's very difficult to do that because I remember when I started doing it, you know, the thoughts are trickling in. Mind is constantly kind of in a moving element, and and you land up thinking about, like you just said, you land up thinking about that thought, and it's difficult to control rather than worrying about what that thought is. You know.
And the thing, that's the point, we don't want to try to control. And that's why when people are first learning, there's always a tendency to try to control or try, because, the harder we try, the better we do. That's
Yeah.
how we've all been brought up to think. And this is actually a situation where you just want to get out of your own way and let a natural process
So
occur.
Candace, without getting into too much detail, can you give one or two tips of TM that women who are listening to this podcast can take away from you?
The key thing is this value of rest, because this transcending state is a state of restful alertness. Now, this is very unusual.
Yeah.
Either we're really alert, but our mind is active and clear, or we're very restful and we're kind of dozing off. So, what is this place? This is called restful alertness. This is where we we expand the creative capacity of the mind. And
Mhm.
yet at the same time, we're gaining such a deep level of rest that the body starts to heal itself. It starts to throw off the accumulated stress and fatigue. And it's as efficient as the deepest part of deep sleep, only we get there very quickly with this process. So really, that level of deep rest, the whole metabolic rate drops so much,
Mm.
and that's where we literally throw off the physical stress and physical fatigue. And yet at the same time, the mind is getting wide awake, wide awake. So we're activating the creativity, the intelligence that
Mm.
then allows us to deal with stressful situations more easily because we're established in this calmness and yet we're alert to how to move through life.
Right. Before we get into the Ayurveda part,
Yes.
I want to ask you a question, especially, meditation is not, it's easy said than done because it requires a proper habit. When you're
Mm,
healthy, it's the perfect time to start doing meditation. But when a woman gets into situations where she has a disease state, a higher disease state, the
right.
body is controlling them more than the mind is controlling them, or them controlling their mind or them controlling their body. So how can women help themselves in adapting to TM while they have this disease such as breast cancer?
Yeah, no, it's such a great question because there's so much fear that comes with that
Right,
diagnosis.
right.
And that, so there's a lot of anxiety. And so there's a hesitancy to close the eyes and settle inward because you're going to have to start moving through that fear. And
Yeah,
that's hard.
it is hard. Yeah,
And so you'd rather be distracted. You'd rather cook a great meal or have lots of friends over. So there's kind of a distraction. And of course, we need that external support. That's so crucial.
right.
But if we can just, and that's why also with transcendental meditation, you're never learning through a book or an app. You're learning with a teacher. It's in person. And this is so important because everyone's going through different things in life
Right.
and they need uh, that support in making sure that when they come to that moment where the fear starts to come up as they're closing their eyes and
That's a big part.
settling
Yeah.
down, how do they move through that? Now, one very interesting thing that I can share, because
Sure.
I can't really explain the technique because it will create confusion. In other words, it needs to be so simple and so innocent when you sit down with a teacher and you just move through the instructions so simply. And if I try to describe, then I've taken away someone's innocence who hasn't started yet. But there is one interesting technique that's also utilized in transcendental meditation. And that is when there are strong emotions that start to well up and they're kind of overwhelming. And you're thinking, well, I can't even follow the instructions I was given. I'm just overwhelmed by this thought or this fear that's come up.
Hmm.
At that point, you can just allow the attention to go anywhere in the body where there's some strong feeling or sensation, because there is some physical stress that's being released.
Okay.
And that process is kind of an active process. And therefore, the mind and body are intimately connected. So the mind will also become more active, anxious feeling,
Yeah.
emotional feeling. It's very related to the stress being released. And so if you just take your attention, just easily let your attention be with that sensation, it will facilitate that release of stress.
Oh, really?
Very,
Wow.
very
Okay.
easily. You just sit easily
Okay.
and you just wait. And then pretty soon you notice now you're thinking about what you're going to cook for dinner. And then you realize you're not gripped by that emotional feeling. So
Okay.
now at that moment, when you realize, oh, the mind's not gripped, I'm drifting off on other thoughts. Now
Right.
you come back to the instruction you were given about the meditation to just
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
allow,
Yeah.
allow that inward dive to continue.
Right.
And so this is why thoughts are natural to come up in meditation.
I
Because
think you said something very interesting, which I have been talking about is guided meditation. Because I think when you are getting started, especially when you're sick or have a cancer or something like that, you need somebody else guiding you through the process. Because
you,
when
you
two people are doing the same exercise, you're equally motivated. I remember when me and my wife started doing that meditation, she did at least 10-15 minutes. I did it for half an hour, but she was there for 15 minutes because then she said I can't handle it anymore. But at least that helped her. So it's interesting that you say that. So I echo that, for the women to get a guided meditation, especially when you have a serious disease state.
yes, and what you mean by guided meditation is that you have a teacher
That is correct.
who
That is
guides you,
correct. Yes.
because you can go through once you understand all the dynamics of the process of release of stress
Yeah.
and what where the mind is moving to this very, very fulfilling state.
That is
And
true.
the whole point of meditation is not necessarily for the experience in meditation. It's to bring that very full, calm, even expanded sense of yourself into your activity. So it's there all the time with you ultimately. Even
Right.
when you're moving through difficult things, you're
Hmm.
grounded in that very simple state without having to try to make yourself go there. You don't
Right.
want that. You want this to develop very spontaneously, this level of self-sufficiency and
Thank you,
this.
Candace. I mean, this is incredible stuff. I think people need to explore a lot more. By the way, I forgot to mention that Candace also is a founding member of the Raj, which is a very well reputed center out in the middle of Illinois. And you got to look at their website, theraj.com, and check it out. And I was there. I went there and I enjoyed my 7 days session. And one of the things I learned was about the TM. And you're right. The When you have a teacher guiding you through, I did that for 3 days over there, so I became privy to that. But let's talk about the Ayurveda part now.
Right.
As the clock is ticking, so let's talk about the Ayurveda part. Because diet also plays a very important role in
Absolutely.
reducing their stress. We are what we eat, right? So how does the Ayurveda mythology, or I would say a lifestyle, I would say,
Yeah.
is helpful. So please.
Absolutely. Well, you probably well know, and your audience as well, is that Ayurveda is the oldest continuously practiced system of medicine in the
Yes.
world, recognized by the World Health Organization. And due to pretty much mainly the British rule, so much was all the colleges were closed, the universities, Ayurveda universities. So a whole generation grew up thinking that it was backward, but it's extraordinarily sophisticated and very comprehensive. So the TM organization under Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in the 80s began to revive that whole tradition because it's so profound. And fortunately, because it was written 6,000 years ago in Sanskrit, and that language is still a very live, mostly academic language, but you can go back to the text, you can restore this tradition. So
Yeah.
that's been our mission. My husband and I, we built the Raj, we own the Raj. It's in Iowa, the cornfields of Iowa. And we really pioneered the use of Ayurvedic medicine 33 years ago in the West. So absolutely, it is a comprehensive approach to unfolding full human potential and living a healthy and extended life. And so it has a preventive aspect, it has a curative aspect, very sophisticated tradition of health. And yes, let's go to the fact that modern medicine is actually coming around to some of these ancient principles that are there in Ayurveda, where the choices you make in your
Yeah.
lifestyle impact your genetic expression. So we can't change our genes. We inherit certain genes,
Yeah.
but we can determine what genes are switched on and what genes are switched off. So we want to switch off the weaker genes. Maybe we inherit something from our mother, possibly breast cancer. Our mother had it. We want to switch that gene off. And we want to switch on all the positive immune boosting genetic tendencies that we have. It's called epigenetics. Recognized, of course. So now modern medicine is even saying, oh, your diet, exercise.
Yeah.
And the great tenet of Ayurveda is you have a choice. So we just need to understand for our body type, our physiology, our circumstances in life, what are those best choices?
Okay.
And again, this is why Ayurveda is very individualized. It's very individualized medicine. So we have Vaidya's at the Raj who take people's pulse, and on that basis, they make the recommendations to move them back into health. But generally speaking, I think we can make some tips, and that is have a daily routine that is in rhythm with the intelligence of nature. So go to bed early, get up early. These are the kinds of things our grandparents have always been telling us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they are very wise and profound things.
Yeah.
Don't drink cold water with your
Warm
meals.
water.
Everyone wants their ice water.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is it's compromising your digestive fires to digest your food.
Yeah.
So, and today there are so many environmental toxins that we're dealing with like never before.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we have the program of Panchakarma. And Panchakarma is a balancing, curative, preventative process whereby we're pulling out these fat-soluble environmental toxins.
Mm-hmm.
Just did a study a few years back that showed that 5 days of Panchakarma pulls out 50% of the body burden of toxins.
Oh, wow.
So it's very profound. We're just talking with a very reputable, world-renowned clinic now to do a much bigger study along this
Okay.
line, because nobody can get these forever chemicals out. And we've already shown that the dangerous fat-soluble toxins we can remove. The forever chemicals are fat-soluble toxins.
And that could have a direct correlation with
Absolutely.
cancer and whatnot, right?
They are correlating these environmental toxins with cancer. So there are lots of things like, okay, eat organic food. Absolutely do it.
Yeah.
You don't need to be ingesting the pesticides and herbicides that are sprayed all over the food that are coming up into the food through the roots, because those pesticides are soaked into the soil.
Right.
So all these things, eat organic, and eat your biggest meal in the middle of the day, not at night, because another form of toxicity is when we don't fully digest a meal and there's this sticky substance that's left over and it clogs up the cellular communication and gets in our joints. We start feeling stiff. So you want to have good digestion. It's key.
Yeah.
And you want to eat your bigger meal in the middle of the day when your digestion is stronger.
And you mentioned once when I was there, you mentioned that everything starts at the gut. It is basically what you ingest.
Yes.
And everything starts at the gut. So you got to you got to make sure that your gut is clean and with no toxins. So talk about that a little bit.
Yes. The digestion is absolutely key. And what happens is, that saying in Ayurveda, you have a choice. It's unique to human beings. Everything else, all the animals, the plants, they simply function according to the laws of nature. They don't have a free will in that sense. They have certain, they function according to laws of nature. The sun goes down and all the birds, you see the flocks flying to roost in the trees. and they don't need an alarm clock. They are the alarm clock. The birds
Yeah.
start chirping outside the window, and that's the alarm clock. Whereas we have a choice. We can stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning if we want.
Yeah.
We can, eat at a time that's not great. We can eat things that are inappropriate.
Hmm.
Um, and so understanding those good choices to make is what Ayurveda is all about. And this is what we do at the Raj. We have guest education, our speakers at night,
Yeah.
our Vajas, and our speakers, our guest education programs are to make sure you understand why you're getting the recommendations that you're getting.
And when you say Vajas, these are the Ayurvedic doctors, right?
The traditional Ayurvedic doctors.
Okay, yeah. I
So
just
we
want to
have,
make sure that the audience is aware of the of the lingo, So
yeah, there's definitely
wanted
lingo.
yeah.
There's
So
definitely Ayurveda lingo for sure.
yeah.
So I think, again, just little tips about going to bed on time, getting a lot of rest. You're dealing with a lot of worry. And of course, whatever support you have in terms of all those people who love you and are there to be supportive of you, it's so important. Ayurveda talks about every aspect of life, psychological, emotional,
Yeah.
physical, lifestyle choices. It's so comprehensive.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful about it, and why we have so much to offer everyone who's going through any specific challenge in life, and also just those who would like to make the right choices now so they don't end up with the
So
challenges.
I want to switch.
Um,
I want to switch a little bit. So I
okay.
think you addressed the Ayurveda. What is Ayurveda a little bit, and then you talk about the TM. When it comes to have a synergistic approach to both of them, let's talk about for the women who are going through breast cancer. And I know there has been some studies, there has been some data that I remember you mentioning before to me that has a very positive impact. Now, women, when they get cancer, they obviously go to their oncologist, and their oncologist determine the right therapy for them. And either they'll go through a surgery or a chemo or radiation, what have you. But all these have some impact on
Right.
their body. So, can you know where I'm getting at? We're getting
Yeah.
to how do you integrate the TM and the Ayurveda, and while they are going through this, what are some of the things that you can share that the women with breast cancer can get help from you?
Yeah. It's very interesting because with cancer, cancer can move quickly. So we don't treat it because Ayurveda is it takes a little bit more time.
Right.
You're making lifestyle choices and you're shifting your diet, and it's
Yeah.
great for prevention, but it's also great for after going through, say, chemotherapy.
Right.
Because, yes, okay, you get the good news, you're in remission.
Yeah.
But that toxic substance that had to go in and do the job to fight the cancer, it leaves a residue.
Yeah.
And so often when women finish their chemotherapy, for quite some time, they just don't feel like themselves. They've got the great news, and that that is a new lease on life. But still, they're gaining weight, they're tired, they just don't feel as clear or sharp as they used to feel.
Right.
And the Panchakarma is just great for pulling out that toxic residue and then getting them on a proper routine that's right for them, because Ayurveda doesn't look at the labels that get put on all these disorders.
That is
It
true.
looks it looks at the underlying imbalance, whether it's
Right.
a vata, pitta, or kapha, and these
Right.
are just the fundamental principles that govern everything in the physiology. So one person's cancer may involve more of a pitta imbalance, and another person's cancer may be aggravated by a vata imbalance. So the recommendations are going to be somewhat individual. Okay,
Hmm.
you're going forward now. With the Panchakarma, we've pulled out these residual toxins, and now let's get you on a fabulous preventive program that's going to address, let's say in your case, a vata imbalance.
Right.
And now we're going to bring more things that will address that, strengthen the immune system, and that has to do with specific diet, specific herbs, and even specific activities like exercise that won't be too heating or won't be. It's very, very comprehensive.
Yeah.
So that's the key thing. Okay, we've got a new lease on life, and I don't want to live life feeling afraid that it might come back, or I want to feel confident that I've done everything I can. Through my daily meditation, I've found this place where I find an abiding experience of happiness,
Yeah.
an abiding baseline of happiness that I can connect with, and gives me that optimism, that strength to go forward. So all these things together, it is a remarkable body of medicine. It's
Of course.
just
Yeah.
beautiful.
No, I agree. I agree with that, and thank you so much, because I think they so women needs to know whether they are kapha, pitta, or vata. You
Butter.
know, so they need to find out what they are,
And
and
which is out of balance
yeah,
because, they
exactly.
can have a fundamental level of physiology that they were born with, more
Right.
kapha or more, but then it's the imbalance. Where did the imbalance come in?
Right.
And then just staying on top of that,
Right.
avoiding.
Now, this is very good. We're running out of time. Candace, thank you so much for your time. But I think we want to do another session with you in about a couple of months, because there's a lot more to learn about Ayurveda,
Yes.
and I think we'll dive deep into that discussion. What are the specifics that women need to understand, and how they can adapt to the Ayurvedic lifestyle at their home, so
Yes.
that they can reduce stress, they can reduce the disease or eliminate the disease in some cases,
Yes.
or I would say in most cases. So, but thank you so much. We appreciate your time. I know it's
My
very
pleasure.
valuable. Again, ladies and gentlemen, watching this show, hopefully this was a very good insight for you guys for transcendental meditation and Ayurveda. And if you'd like to get more information, either you can reach out to our website, alkaori.org, and we'll appreciate your support always. Thank you very much. And thank you, Candace, for joining us. We'll be in touch.